This is Dennis Peacock with another edition of the Transforum. Provocative title, Catholic Homosexuality. What in the world are we talking about here? Well, let me begin by giving a principle that we're going to use to analyze this, and that is that the family unit is the core setting context for people and nations. The family unit is the foundation that establishes values in the culture. For the last 2 decades, we've heard nothing but one scandal after another, sometimes delayed by a matter of weeks or months, in terms of the priesthood and its abuse of boys, primarily. About 90% of all the abuse by the priests is homosexual in nature, and it's busted the Catholic Church, costing them hundreds of millions of dollars already. Now, the Pope, who happens to be a God-fearing man, I've read one of his latest books on Jesus, and if this leader is not a Christian, then I'm probably a cupcake. And the Pope has apologized profusely, but he's implicated in cover-ups there on the Vatican level when he was operating as a cardinal, Pope Ratzinger. Now, this whole controversy is fueled by legitimate anger, it's fueled by legitimate concern, and it's also fueled by secular opportunism. In other words, the people that hate Christ, hate the church, hate Catholicism, are of course going to whip this thing up, and it's an open invitation for scandalous attacks against the church and against the leaderships. Now, one thing that I have noted is the total silence of the homosexual community themselves. If I've heard nothing about it, and I'm fairly apprised of what's going on, I assume you haven't either. Now, the core of this issue, really, if we're going to deal with it on a foundational level, is the fact that in the late 12th century and the early 13th century, in the period of the Great Papal Reform, there was a scandal relative to the married bishops, and they were putting their own sons into that bishopric. That office had nothing to do with salvation, nothing to do with the love for the church, nothing to do with any of the things that qualifies somebody to be a bishop. So the scandal became so severe, you may have wondered how and when did this happen. In the early 1200s, the papal reform made it unlawful to be married. So the current bishops and priests who were married died off, but to be confirmed from that point on, you had to be celibate. Now that was a catastrophe on one level, because 1 Timothy chapter 3 says that leaders in the church, first of all, after their security of their faith in Christ, need to be good family men who manage their homes, saying that if you can't manage your home, how are you going to manage a church? Jesus noted that those called to celibacy were very, very few and far between. And now we have a whole denomination that is run right on the edge of the cliff because they really have disobeyed 1 Timothy chapter 3 and the whole issue that strong fathers generally tend to be good leaders. This is Dennis Peacock for the Transforum. We need to dig deeper. Hey, let's engage.